Arsenal reportedly agree personal terms with Moises CaIcedo. Chelsea and Liverpool still hovering around this player, according to reports straight from his home country of Ecuador. We're going to delve into this in more detail, talk about a counter offer that Chelsea are preparing to make as the deal, the transfer, the chase, the pursuit of Caicedo really heats up. Download the OneFootball app now. The link's in our description, or scan the QR code on the screen. The best place for your one-stop shop for all your football news and transfers this summer. We'll be bringing you lots of content, partnering with OneFootball the whole time, because as I say, they really are the best place at bringing all the stories from different outlets together in one place for your reading and education leisure. Now, I want to jump into this deal. Personal terms agreed with Moises CaIcedo. Now, that comes from a very credible source in the Ecuadorian media. They quote, and I'm reading them verbatim here, Arsenal's qualification for the Champions League has indeed catapulted them into pole position, allowing the club to agree personal terms with CaIcedo. The heart of Brighton's dazzling Premier League season, CaIcedo now finds himself amidst a transfer crossfire between footballing giants Arsenal and Chelsea, with an added interest from Liverpool. We kind of know the British press via Liverpool directly have kind of ruled themselves out of this, but the Ecuadorian press see it a little different. All thanks to a standout season, which saw Brighton clinching an impressive sixth-place finish and securing European football. Despite the uncertainty surrounding his future, reports suggest that Caicedo has agreed terms with Arsenal. The Ecuadorian international has been instrumental in Brighton's season so far, but it seems like his heart is set on the Champions League. Now, what's really interesting about this story is because it's come from Ecuadorian news, from journalists none of us have heard of, it often goes under the radar. But why it shouldn't? For instance, when Julian Alvarez joined Man City, it was the Argentinian press that had those deals and those news stories first. Enzo Fernandez, it was the Argentinian media outlets that had those stories first. We saw with Darwin Núñez, although he is not from Portugal, they were well ahead of the curve in terms of that deal being agreed for Liverpool, Darwin, Benfica last year. Gabriel Jesus, an Arsenal example, the Brazilian media were well ahead of the European and British media on that deal. They spoke about it in February that Arsenal were progressing it. They were the first to call it in kind of early mid-June that the deal would be done once he returns from holiday. And they kind of let the story die there because they were adamant. I'm not suggesting that they are always accurate. I'm not saying it will 110% be an Arsenal player, but I will not dismiss outlets like this. Big following, credible in their home nation. And of course, they have connections, may have connections directly into the Caicedo camp, as we've seen, and the examples are given with many other players. Now, remember, personal terms can be agreed with multiple clubs at the same time. This is an element of football that some football fans dismiss or disagree with or reject, but most transfer experts and transfer gurus out there talk about this. I myself have had the privilege of interviewing 2 or 3 agents in my time who have said, yeah, we'll often agree with 2 or 3 and then keep trying to push them all to increase their offers. It's what they do. But Arsenal, we know, are in for him. We know that Arsenal are looking at him. Declan Rice is the number one priority. There may have already been a bid for him had West Ham not got to this Conference League final. So it's going to be interesting to see the direction this goes in. Maybe, just maybe, those personal terms are already agreed, or the European description for this is normally personal terms will be no problem. But we all know that means exactly the same thing. Now, some remainder of this article also turns around and says that Chelsea, however, are not far behind in the race. They are reportedly willing to offer the youngster better wages than their London rivals. So this is the thing. You can agree personal terms. Doesn't mean you're going to sign on the dotted line. Doesn't mean you're not going to think about where your final decision is. So you want to go from a done deal on personal terms to a completed deal. That isn't happening yet. He says Chelsea's head coach Mauricio Pochettino is hopeful of luring him to Stamford Bridge. Meanwhile, Liverpool's potential signing of Caicedo's teammate McAllister could be a factor in this. Brighton are likely to use Caicedo's contract status to hike up his fee, rumored to be in the vicinity of £75 million, but this could rise further. Arsenal's decision to meet this sum could hinge on their pursuit of Declan Rice, with West Ham allegedly demanding a whopping 100 million for the England international. And what's really important to remember here, Ben Jacobs speaks about this a lot, and it's why you should listen to journalists that talk in detail and don't talk in bullet points. Bullet point journalism is the death of their industry because it gives you no detail, no nuance, no education. Therefore, it leads to an angrier football fan base should something not go right. Maybe Arsenal have no intention of signing both. Maybe they do, but they're not going to say that to either Caicedo or Rice. They're going to tell them that we're looking at both of you, potentially. They're going to tell Caicedo that they're all in for him. They're going to tell Caicedo one thing or another to keep things on track. They may have all the intention in the world of buying both. But if Declan Rice's deal falls through, let's not tempt fate. Say he breaks his leg in the European Cup final. Arsenal are not going to buy him. But if they've told Caicedo, we're only going to come for you if we miss out on Declan Rice, he may reject signing the deal and opt for another team. There's loads of plates being spun at the same time here, and it's important to remember that. So personal terms can be agreed, but either side, either camp can pull out at any moment for whatever reason may present itself. There is another story that's also trending this evening in relation to Caicedo. And it says here that according to reports, Chelsea could look to include Levi Colwill as a part exchange deal for Brighton and Albion for Moises CaIcedo. The youngster's future is up in the air heading into the summer, but Brighton clearly want him as they've already had a bid of 30 million turned down. There was a report that an additional bid of about 40 million pounds could be made. However, and I want to state this, all the experts surrounding this have said categorically, Levi Colwill is not for sale. At no point do Chelsea want to make this sale. They do not want to let him go. Poch is very much looking forward to working with him. But it says here, Fabrizio is now reporting that Brighton are now preparing a new record bid for Colwill, and it will cost 40 million. Offer will be submitted soon. His report claims Chelsea have no intention to sell. Colwill is part of the long-term plans at the club. But this is refuted, by the way, by the Football Insider. So the Football Insider claim that Chelsea could include the defender, part player, like part cash, part player for the deal. So there are lots of contradicting reports. I know a lot of people will side with what Fabrizio says because Fabrizio Romano is looked at as one of the leading transfer voices. But I always think it's important. I think, especially, for all you men and women out there watching, I think it's very important and very grown up and very, very adult-like to not put all your stock, all your faith in one journalist, one person. I find that a very strange concept, especially as a grown man, like allowing myself just to believe the word of just one other person. For me, it's very much a case of I remain open-minded, I read multiple stories, and I have my view and my opinion. And of course, when David Ornstein or Fabrizio or Ben Jacobs, people of that ilk, when they speak, I listen. I don't always agree, but I listen, and it holds a lot of weight because they have a huge amount of credibility. But remember, it was Phil Thomas, a journalist I've never heard of from The Sun, who broke the news Friday morning that Spurs, at the early part of this week, would complete the deal for Postecoglou to join Tottenham before David Ornstein, before Matt Law, before Fabrizio. He's getting no credit for it now. Those journalists are being celebrated for breaking it today. But somebody stated it would be done early part of this week on Friday. So that's why I remain open-minded, because I like to give credit to who deserves it. Now, if the Football Insider get this right, whoever the journalist at the Football Insider was, they need to be credited by you, the public, in my opinion. But there we go. So it's going to be an interesting one to see which way this goes. I want to get your views. I want your opinions. That is the most important part of the football terrace. So make sure that is getting done. But as we said at the top of the show, reports from Ecuador, and according to OneFootball, they're a very large and credible outlet, state that Arsenal have agreed terms with the player. Nothing advanced with Brighton as it stands right now, but personal terms are agreed or will be no problem. Make sure like buttons have been hit. Download OneFootball now or get it refreshed if you haven't updated it recently. Use that QR code you can see on the screen or click on the link in our description below. And as I said, you just type in Caicedo, you'll see 20, 30 stories. Rather than searching through Google or scrolling through Twitter looking for updates, use OneFootball. Fast, quick, brilliant app. There's loads of other features as well, but genuinely, get it downloaded now. Take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you all again very